President Bukele of El Salvador. Someone we'd love to hate, someone we hate to love. Depends on who you are, your experience of this man, your opinion, of course, is different. So he basically made Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador, his country, and a lot of things happened. Of course, the internet exploded. Bitcoin lovers around the world celebrated, but the world establishment were not happy with this guy. The United States, the IMF, everybody was angry with him. Immediately, propaganda was launched, of course, as expected, to try and sully his image and his country. It was brought to attention that, in fact, El Salvador was a country that's riddled with corruption and gang violence, etc. Look, the IMF urged El Salvador to remove Bitcoin as legal tender. I think they even downgraded their currency. Look, the International Monetary Fund has urged El Salvador to reverse its decision to make Bitcoin legal tender. And then, the whole propaganda piece, etc. And we're being made to believe that this country has become an absolute failure. There were even demonstrations on the ground by opposition parties and people that were against Bitcoin that, they didn't want it because, of course, it was taxpayers' money. But look at this interesting news. Bitcoin surfing tourists are flocking to El Salvador. What's the big deal? Well, I'm not sure if I can say that word here on YouTube. MURDERS have dropped massively in the Central American country, attracting lots of tourism thanks to its Bitcoin-loving president for the turnaround. Now, again, this might be a propaganda piece by the man himself, planted somehow. Never trust what you see in the media these days. Are you from El Salvador? I'd be interested in you commenting actually under this video to let us know what's really going on. But from what we can see here, the tourists are flocking to El Salvador in record numbers. I know a lot of Bitcoin people actually that have moved to El Salvador, or at least they've transferred their businesses to El Salvador because of the favorable conditions for cryptocurrencies. According to the country's tourism minister. Okay, so is the tourism minister saying that? So again, take that with a pinch of salt. The announcement comes as the Central American country ramps up its PR campaign to show the world that it's no longer a tiny backwater plagued by hyper-violent street gangs, but rather a Bitcoin surf paradise. Even if this is propaganda, you can't blame them for trying to offer a counter-narrative to the world propaganda machine. The BBCs, the CNNs of this world, the powers that be, right? The IMF. On Thursday, President Nayib Bukele, the country's social media savvy millennial leader, posted a cinematic video on Twitter announcing that El Salvador had just gone 365 days without a single homicide. Now, I find that really, really hard to believe, even here in the UK where the rates of homicide are really, really, really low. 365 days without a single? I doubt that very much. But hey, take that with a pinch of salt. Okay, let's see if we can play that.
Our government has now reached 365 days without a hunger, without a single murder year. For years, having dozens of homicides.
Okay, that's definitely propaganda. I don't believe that for a second. But if the rate has dropped, and if this is because of Bitcoin, then this is undeniably a good thing. And I think that the economy of the country is probably doing better because with Bitcoin, at least, there's a little bit of accountability. I know people like to think that Bitcoin is a source of anonymity, but in fact, it is the most transparent money that we've ever had. And anybody who has access to the internet can inspect wallets and see activity. And if we know what the wallets are that Bukele is using, then we can track the movement of the money. And there are companies, analytics companies that are specialized at doing this. And I'm sure that they're on his case. I'm sure that the United States government, the IMF, have experts that are sitting on their computers just watching what El Salvador is doing with all this Bitcoin. For me, this is good news. Even if it's a bit of propaganda and is a little bit exaggerated, any drop in crime, any drop in homicide rates is absolute good news. And if we can credit Bitcoin for this, even better. I'll see you in the next video.